morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us from across the world. I think we have representatives from almost every continent on the planet. We have an all-women's leaders from around the world, speakers and the roundtable leads. Today's event is International UI/UX Design. We need to shift the mindset from a one-size-fits-all global standard. A lot of US-based companies apply a global standard approach and shift that to an adaptive, global-ready design. Right? So international UX design really means creating accessible, inclusive, intuitive product experiences rendered right by culture and region. Then we'll explore hearing UI/UX through the dimension of music, showcasing the different cultural rhythmic sequences and how we can fine-tune the right intuitive interface for tuning into our customers' lifestyle soundtrack.
So we're going to do a quick game, 10 English language movie titles with foreign language translation. Okay, in Spanish, The Rebellious Nun. Please jump into the chat. What movie is translated as The Rebellious Nun in Spanish? Sister Act, good try. Sound of Music. Okay, excellent work. Oh, you guys are fast. Flying Nun. I wonder how that one translated. So yeah, Sound of Music. In Turkish, Money Hunter. Not quite so fast this time. Wolf of Wall Street. Nice work.
And as of December 2017, Shopify was English only. And as of today, Shopify is available in 21 languages. And in comes a custom tool that we built for our international life in order to go global. And we call it the translation platform. It was a simple and efficient way for translators and developers to collaborate in a streamlined way. Best rule of thumb is to consider stress testing with German because it generally is 30% longer than English, or testing with a character-based language like Japanese because it generally breaks quite a few of our core features like domains. In Japan, because it's considered something like a monoculture, you don't really see the diversity you would normally see in Europe or North America. And for this reason, the Japanese culture is still very traditional and sensitive to radicalized images. And to reflect this, the product images featured color boxes in place of avatars while they were starting to expand into that new market. One of my favorite pieces that they had put together is a lot of the screen mockups or the low fidelity UI mockups of their product are built with CSS and HTML.
This is a very long page. They literally expect everything on the first page.
And so peer validation is a huge way to build trust when you're stepping into new markets. And we always try our best to feature local users, localized testimonials. The world is diverse. And so if we're not thinking about diversity, then we're not thinking about people. And if we're not thinking about people, then we're not designers. We're just makers of stuff.
It is actually a big deal in Germany. We found out that German members actually really cares about like knowing their professional connections' birthday and really care about making sure that they actually reach out on others' birthday. We ran this feature specifically and kept it specifically for our German markets, and that drove a really good engagement in that market. And it turns out that our copy, which is directly translated from our English copy, just like job title, just was not clear to our Japanese member at all. And so when they saw the prompt, like all they did was just to input like employee. And so we just actually made a very simple copy change to just be very specific about asking for like what they do at work. And that copy change alone, right, drove like over 40% increase in people actually giving us the right, like what we would consider a job title. And so like this is another example of like very, very small change, but it has a huge impact just because we really kind of dig in and try to understand like what the bottleneck is for our members. We found out that in China, like 90% of our members don't have people you may know recommendation results. And that's because like the penetration is low in the country, and most people just don't have a much of a network to begin with. So we don't have a lot of data to work with in order to even give you those recommendations. We just did a search of like people from your same company, people from your same school, to try to use those as recommendations result for you. Make sure that number one, you have your table stakes. And this is meaning that like, hey, you really need to have your foundations rights. Once we have the table stakes right, then the second part is what we call accelerants, right? So really kind of considering the go-to-market, like how do we utilize like marketing and comms and editorials, business development to really kind of educate and activate and retain our members. And this is when we consider brand campaigns, like how do we use our editorial team to kind of really drive member engagement. There are local needs that are unique to the markets. And so like we do need to go in and make sure that we dig deep into the market insights to build the right features for the markets.
From the perspective of 2014, we didn't go in as LinkedIn. We actually went in as Chitu, which I think maybe, which at least at the time for sure, few people knew that this was actually LinkedIn. It was powered by LinkedIn's data, but it was perceived as a very native local app. So when we're doing product geofit, when we look at regional and cultural factors. So regional factors, in China, very young demographic. For LinkedIn, the addressable segment is the students and professionals. In China, that looks, the age cohort is 17 to 24. Another regional factor was it's a mobile-first country. At the time, the gap between mobile-first in China and not at all, mobile first in the US was huge. Fast forward years later, the strategies changed because again, at the time it was important to establish local market entry, which Chitu really landed us into that market for adoption. But then the strategy changed to more global, right? So we have economic opportunities, job collaboration opportunities with external global players, right? And so their decision was to actually move everything to where the back end and the mid-tier are tied to the global platform, tied to all the database, the networks, all of that. And then the front end only was the UI UX on the front end was completely native. There are all these different modularities. When I talk about adaptive, global readiness and is all about adaptive, right? So when you have an adaptive infrastructure architecture for backend, mid-tier, front-end UI UX, you're able to then maneuver and manipulate and render the right experiences based on the cultural context of your customer's regional environment consideration.
Basically, he was saying, on the future of internet, he really thinks there's going to be two internet of the world. One is China, and one is kind of the rest of the world. And this is also causing, just different market expectations because of these competitions. For example, for job posting, everyone expecting to post jobs with $0, and I think LinkedIn costs previously LinkedIn cost like $99 to post a job, which really put us in the awkward position. And then the second one is, everyone has WeChat. So basically, people are expecting to, any communication on any platform to be as fast as WeChat. I think in the US, it probably takes at least a month or so to recruit a candidate, but in China it could be just 1 day or two, and that's kind of the market expectation. So with that being said, we really need to kind of think innovatively to and use a different approach to win China. We have to really think about what's our competitive advantage and how can we actually double down on that and create our own differentiators. That's why we decided to build something called Direct Job Chat. And by adding that feature, we actually increased, the response rate from recruiters by 3x and decreased the response time by 3x.
We have invited two spectacular composers from Brazil. On violin, Guilherme Pimenta, and on double bass, Pablo Arruda.
When we play music, we have to think basically of three aspects. The melody, which is normally the part where people most remember, the harmony, which is the accompaniment, like normally I'm doing the melody and Pablo is doing the accompaniment, but everyone that is playing has to think about rhythm. And when we talk about rhythm, we are thinking about what we call claves. What are claves? Claves are like little motifs that are be repeated during a whole song.